When you are combining two or more groups of different sizes to find the total, so we have some groups and we are combining those groups together. Combining is the action we're looking for, but the operation is going to be addition. When you start with the total and you take away part of it to see how much is left over. So if you start with the total instead of finding it and you see what's left over after taking something away is the model, and the operation that matches this model will be subtraction. When you are comparing the size of, so comparing's a keyword, but when you're comparing the size of two different groups to see the difference between the sizes of those groups. If you are trying to figure out the difference when comparing two different groups, difference would be the action, or you're comparing, and the operation will be subtraction. When you are repeatedly combining groups of the same size to find the total. So if you're trying to find the total by repeatedly combining a bunch of groups here that are the same size, we're combining it here, again, repeating it again and again. Then to find that total, we are going to use multiplication. So we're going to be multiplying how many groups by the size of the groups to find that total. When you start with an amount and take a fraction of that amount, or want groups of that amount. And remember, fractions can be represented as decimals. So we can take a fraction of something or a decimal of something. So looking over here, we want to take 2/3 of something. So the gray is showing 2/3. And I want to take 2/3 of those checkered 3/4. So the checkered kind of shows 3/4, and if I want 2/3, then I'm going to see where that overlaps, and I'm taking part of a part. And this is a model for multiplication. So whenever I'm taking a fraction of or even a decimal of an actual amount, then we're going to use the fraction of model for multiplication. When you start with the total and you see how many times you could repeatedly take away or fit in the same sized groups of that total. So I want to see how many times I can take a group away. Repeat it, repeat it, repeat it. How many times did I take it away or fit it in? The back, just kind of go backwards. So if I am repeatedly trying to take away the same amount or repeatedly fitting in the same amount, that's going to be a division model. When you start with a total and you're separating that into a certain number of equal-sized groups. So I have the total and I'm separating it here into 4 equally sized groups, and I want to know how big is that group? Then that is going to be a model for division. Doug drove 23.9 miles from his house to his farm. So this is some important information that we want to rewrite and kind of draw what's going on in the situation. So he went from his house to his farm, and we're going to label that distance as being 23.9 miles. Then 18.3 miles from his farm to his field. We're going to write down that important information every single time we come to a new bit of information. We're going to write and organize that information. So he went from his farm to the field in 18.3 miles, 14.3 miles to pick up his daughter. So he went from the field to pick up his daughter in 14.3 miles. Label that in our drawing as well. And then 12.8 miles to get back home. So from picking up his daughter to go back home, he drove 12.8 more miles. And the question's asking us, what was the total number of miles that Doug drove? So we want to combine, so we're combining all of the miles that he drove today. we are going to combine the 23.9 miles with the 18.3, 14.3, and the 18.8. Now we can't really use multiplication because these numbers aren't the same. And when we set up our addition, we want all the columns to be lined up and the decimals to be lined up as well. So now 9 plus 8 is 17, 3 plus 3 is 6, and 17 plus 6 is 23. So you bring down the 3, bring down the decimal as well, and carry the 2. I know that 2 plus 8 is 10, and 3 plus 4 is 7, and 7 plus 8 is 15. So 10 plus 15 is 25. So I'm going to write the 5 down and carry the 2. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, and in this column we have a total of 7. So now I know that Doug drove a total of 75.3 miles. Remember to write the units. A regular box of candy grasshoppers cost $4.83 for 21 candies. What's the cost for each candy? Well, we want to write down that one box equals $4.83. So that's some important information. And we know that in that box we have, or each box has 21 candies. And drawing a picture here might help us figure out what's actually going on in this situation. So let's draw our box of candy that's worth $4.83 and split it up into 7 columns and 3 rows to make 21 candies. So each candy is going to be worth a little bit of that total, and we want to know how much each candy is. So we're actually separating the total cost into 21 pieces. So the total cost is $4.83, and we're dividing or separating it into 21 portions. So we have the $4.83, and we are separating it or dividing it into 21 groups because each of the 21 candies would be worth that amount. So we're going to bump our decimal place up. 21 goes into 4 0 times, but 21 goes into 48 2 times. So we're going to put a 2 above the 8. And 2 times 21 is 42, and 48 minus 42 is 6. Dropping down that 3, we see that 21 goes into 63 3 times evenly, because 3 times 21 is equal to 63 exactly. So we have 0.23 as my answer. And we see that 23 cents is how much each candy costs. A bag of sour candy weighs 8.21 ounces. So we're going to write that important information down, that one bag is 8.21 ounces. And we want to know how much will 3.9 bags of sour candy weigh. So we need 3.9 bags of the 8.21 ounces. So let's kind of draw a picture out. I have one bag that will be 8.21 ounces. I have another bag and a third bag. And my last bag is only going to be 0.9 or part of that. So it's going to be a little bit less than 8.21. But I'm basically combining each of those. And I'm repeating it 3.9 times because I want 3.9 groups of those bags. So we're going to have 8.21 times 3.9 because repeatedly combining is a model for multiplication. So now 8.21 times 3.9. We are going to do 8.21 times 9 first. So 1 times 9 is 9. 2 times 8 is 18. 2 times 8 is 72, plus the one that we carried would be 73. Now we're done with the 9, and we're going to move on to the 3. And 30 times 821, we have 3 times 1 is 3, 3 times 2 is 6, and 3 times 8 is 24. We're going to add this up. And once we have our sum, and it's just like we multiplied 821 times 39, but we had 3 decimal places, so we need 3 decimal places in my answer as well. So we end up with 32.019, or 32 and 19 thousandths ounces. Robert and his sister are buying kitchen supplies for the apartment they are sharing. They bought 6 plates for $1.50 each. So we want to rewrite 6 plates for $1.50 each, 6 drinking glasses for $3.79 each, so 6 glasses for $3.79 each, and 6 towels for $1.75 each. So we want to rewrite that important information. Now it's saying if Robert and his sister plan to share the cost evenly, we're splitting that cost, then how much will each need to pay? So once they figure out that total, they're going to split it into 2 groups. So we're repeatedly combining the $1.50 for each of the 6 plates, $3.79 for each of the 6 glasses, and $1.75 for each of the 6 towels. Once we figure that out, we're combining those totals and then separating it into 2 groups. So we're going to organize this, and $1.50 for each of the 6 plates. 6 times 0 is 6, 6 times 5 is 30, carry the 3, bring down the 0, 6 times 1 is 6, plus 3 is 9, 2 decimal places, and we've got $9 worth of plates. So all 6 plates are worth $9 altogether. $3.79 times 6 glasses. 6 times 9 is 54, 6 times 7 is 42, plus 5 is the 47, 6 times 3 is 18, plus 4 is 22. 2 decimal places in my problem and 2 decimal places in my answer show that Robert and his sister spent $22.74 on drinking glasses. Now the towels each cost $1.75, so I want 6 of them. 6 times 5 is 30, 7 times 6 is 42, with 3 is 45, 6 times 1 is 6, plus 4 is 10. 2 decimal places in my problem and 2 decimal places in my answer give us a total of $10.50 for towels. Now that I know the total that they spent on plates, glasses, and towels, I can put those 3 totals together, combining them together with addition. And when I'm adding or subtracting, I want to make sure that I'm lining up those decimal places and lining up all of those columns as well. So $9, $22.74, and $10.50, we're going to add those together. We've got 4, 12, put the 2, carry the 1, 9, 10, 11, 12, carry the 1, and we've got $42.24 as our total. However, they are splitting the cost, and there's 2 people splitting or dividing the cost. So we have 42.24, and we are going to divide that cost amongst Robert and his sister. So we're going to divide that by 2. We are going to bump up our decimal place. 2 goes into 4 2 times with 0 left over. 2 goes into 2 1 time with 0 left over. 2 goes into 2 1 time with 0 left over. And 2 goes into 4 2 times with 0 left over. So we end up having $21.12. So Robert and his sister each paid $21.12. If we kind of look at this problem, we used multiplication, and then multiplication again. And once we found those answers, we added those answers together. And then when we added those answers together to find our total, we separated it or divided it by 2. The New Wave Motor Company has developed a car that travels 380.75 miles on 25 gallons of gasoline. So we want to write that we have 380.75 miles. And in those miles, it will use 25 gallons of gas. And it's asking how far can it travel on 1 gallon of gasoline. So This action seems a little tough, so let's try to draw a picture. We know that it can go a certain length, and that length is 380.75 miles. Now, if I say that if I know how many miles goes on each gallon, altogether we can split that up into 25 sections for the 25 gallons. So if we separate it into 25 sections, we know how many miles are matched up with each of the gallons. So we're taking 380.75 and separating it into 25, or dividing it into 25 groups. So we don't have a decimal on the outside, which means we are just going to pop up our decimal and start dividing. 25 goes into 3 0 times. It goes into 38 one time, and 38 minus 25 ends up being 13. Drop the next number down, and 25 goes into 130, goes into 104 times, and it goes into 31 times, so altogether it goes in 5 times. And 5 times 25 ends up being 125, with 5 left over when we subtract. Now we're going to bring down the next number, which is a 7. And 25 plus 25 is 50, so I know that 25 goes into 57 2 times. Look how my columns are nice and even. So we're dropping the 5 down with a 7, and 25 goes into 75 3 times, and it goes in 3 times evenly. So now we see that if I separate the 380.75 miles, we get 15.23 miles for each of those 25 sections, which represent a gallon. William took 750 pictures to sell at the fair, but only 375 were sold at 50 cents each. So he took 750 pictures, and he sold 375 pictures. And we know that 375 each got him 50 cents. If it cost him 22 cents to print each picture, or make each picture, then how much profit was made? So we rewrote and organized the information. And when we are looking at him taking the pictures, that's going to be a cost. And when he sells the picture, that's how much he's going to make. So when we try to figure this out, we want to find out the total amount that he made and find the difference between how much he made and how much it cost him to make those pictures. And that will give him his profit. So we're repeatedly combining how many pictures with the cost. We're doing that twice, and then we're finding the difference between those two totals to find out what the profit is. So we're going to multiply and multiply, and those answers we're going to subtract. So let's find out how much money he made first. So he sold 375 pictures, and each one gave him 50 cents. So 5 times 5 is 25, 5 times 7 is 35, plus 2 is 37, 3 times 5 is 15, plus 3 more is 18. We have 2 decimal places in our problem, so we'll have 2 decimal places in my answer. And he made $187.50 on those photos. Then we need to find out how much it cost him to make all 750 photos at 22 cents each. So we're repeatedly combining the 22 cents. So every time he has a picture, it cost him 22 cents. So 2 times 0 is 0, 2 times 5 is 10, carry the 1, 2 times 7 was 14, plus 1 is 15, and we get the same thing but with another 0, and adding those together, 2 decimal places, gives us $165. Now we are going to write how much we made. So he made $187.50, and it cost him $165. So we are going to subtract. 7 minus 5 is 2, 8 minus 6 is 2, 1 minus 1 is 0. So he actually made $22.50 on his photos. Morgan spent 0.25 or a quarter of her savings to purchase a gift. She began with $679. So her savings were $679. And we see right now that we're taking a quarter of the $679. So 0.25 is 1/4 or a quarter. So we have a quarter of her savings. And of is the important word. We see of a lot, but when you see a number of another number, this is going to be the fraction, or in this case, fractions and decimals are equivalent. The fraction of model or action that we're doing here. And if we have a fraction of model, the of symbol the word of turns into the symbol for multiplication. So I have a quarter of the $679, so I'm going to be multiplying 0.25 by 679. 5 times 9 is 45. 5 times 7 is 35, plus 4 more would give us 39. 5 times 6 is 30, plus 3 more would give us 33. We're done with a 5, so we need a 0 as our placeholder. 2 times 9 is 18. 2 times 7 is 14, plus 1 more is 15. 2 times 6 is 12, plus 1 more is 13. And now we're going to add those two products together for our final product. 5 plus 0 is 5. We got 9 plus 8 is 17. 5 plus 3 is 8, plus 1 is 9. 3 plus 3 is 6, and 1 plus nothing is 1. 2 decimal places in our problem give us 2 decimal places in our answer, and we see that Morgan spent $169.75 to purchase her gift. Jack brought a football. Oh, change that to bought. He bought a football for $15.42. Let's label that. A tennis ball for $6.87. And a basketball for $18.08. $18.08. He paid the cashier with a $50 bill. So he paid with $50 and he spent everything on the other side that I listed on the left. So we're going to be combining everything that he bought and then taking that, and the cashier is going to be taking that total away from the $50. So we're going to be adding and then subtracting. So first, we're going to line up our decimals of all the stuff that Jack bought. So make sure our decimals and all of our numbers are lining up in nice columns, and then we're going to add. So 8 plus 7 is 15, plus 2 more is 17. 8 plus 4 is 12, plus 1 more is 13. And here we have 5 plus 6 is 11, plus 8 more is 19, plus 1 more is 20. So I'm going to carry the 2 and bring the 0 down. And 2 plus 1 is 3, plus 1 more is 4. And he spent $40.37. So we should kind of be able to estimate about how much he's going to get back. So if he paid $50 and he should have given the cashier about $40, so he should get about $10 back. So the cashier is going to take the $40.37 away. And I can't do 0 minus 7. The order really matters here. So I need to borrow before I can start subtracting to find out how much change Jack should get. So I can't do that. I'm going to look to the 0, Oh, first thing I can borrow from is the 5, and that makes 10. Then I can borrow from the 10 to make it 9 and make the next group 10. And I could borrow from the 10 to make that 9 and make this last group 10. Now 10 minus 7 is 3. 9 minus 3 is 6. Keep the decimal in the same place. 9 minus 0 is 9. And 4 minus 4 is 0. So we see that he makes about $10 in change. he should get exactly $9.63 in change. Marco has 13 quarters, and quarters are worth 25 cents. So we're going to rewrite that we have 13, I'm going to use Q for quarters, 13 quarters, which are 25 cents. We have 16 nickels, and nickels are worth 5 cents. We have 24 dimes, which are worth 10 cents. 24 dimes worth 10 cents. And Marco also has 128 pennies, which are each worth 1 cent. And that's how much he has in his piggy bank. And he added all of that to the $59.53 that he already had in his savings account. And it asks, how much does Marco have in his savings account now? So we're going to be repeatedly combining the pennies with how much each penny cost and how much each coin cost with how many coins I have. So I'm going to repeatedly combine 4 times, and then I'm going to combine all of those totals or products with the $59.53 that Marco already had in his account. So repeatedly combining is going to be multiplication. And 13 quarters times 25 cents. We have 5 times 3 is 15. 5 times 1 is 5. Plus 1 is 6. We bring the 0 down. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 1 is 2. We add those together. And in my problem, I have 2 decimal places. So in my answer, I should have 2 decimal places as well. And with 13 quarters, he has $3.25 in quarters. For nickels, he has 16 nickels that are each 5 cents. So 5 times 6 is 30, 5 times 1 is 5, plus 3 is 8. 2 decimal places in my problem give me 2 decimal places in my answer, and we see that Marco has only 80 cents in nickels. So 16 nickels would give him 80 cents. For dimes, we have 24 dimes, and we each have 10 cents for each of those dimes. And 1 times 4 is 4, 1 times 2 is 2. I put the 0 as the placeholder, but then I have 2 decimals in my problem, and I should have 2 decimals in my answer. So we see that we have $2.40 worth of dimes. We still have the pennies. So for the pennies, we have 128 pennies. Each is going to be worth 1 cent. So 8 times 1 is 8, 1 times 2 is 2, and 1 times 1 is 1. 2 decimal places in my problem give me 2 decimal places in my answer. And we see that we have $1.28 in pennies. So now that we know how much we have in quarters, how much we have in nickels, how much we have in dimes and pennies, we can add or combine all of these amounts with how much he had saved already to see the total amount that's in his savings account. So he already had $59.53 saved. And when we're combining these, we want to make sure all of our decimal places match up. So pennies, he had $1.28 in pennies. He had $2.40 in dimes. He had $0.80 in nickels. And he ended up with $3.25 in quarters. So we are going to add all of these together, and 5 plus 3 is 8, and 8 plus 8 is 16. So we're going to bring down the 6, carry the 1. 8 and 2 is 10. 4 and 5 is 9, plus 1 more is 10. So we have 20 plus this 2 would give us 22. So we're going to bring the 2 down and carry the 2 up. 3 and 2 is 5. Plus 2 more, 6, 7, 8, and 8 plus 9 is 17. So we carry the 1, and 5 plus 1 is 6. So we see that Marco ends up having $67.26 in his bank account. Jason is planning his family reunion at a water park. A total of 30 family members are coming. So we're going to write 30 family members. There are 18 adults attending, and the rest are children. So we know that there's 18 adults, but we don't quite know how many children there are. If we add the 18 adults to the children, the amount of children we have, then we would get a total of 30 family members. So we kind of want to find the difference between these two amounts, 30 family members taking away the 18 adults. would show us that we have 12 kids. So the price for an adult ticket is $25.95. So adult ticket is $25.95. We're going to organize and rewrite all of this information. We see a child ticket is $18.95. And it's asking how much money is needed for all 30 family members to attend the water park. So you found the difference to find how many children there are. Then we need to repeatedly combine the price of the tickets for the adults and then repeatedly combine the price of the tickets for the children. Once we find those two totals, we can add the tickets for the adults and the tickets for the kids together to get how much the entire family how much it would cost for the entire family to attend the water park. So 25.95 times 18 would give us the amount for the adults. And when we're done with the 8, we do 1 times 5 is 5, 1 times 9 is 9, 1 times 5 is 5, 1 times 2 is 2, and we add those two amounts together to get 0, 11, 17, 6, and 4. We had 2 decimal places in my problem, so I'll have 2 decimal places in my answer. And we see that the total amount that the family spent on adult tickets was $467.10. Now we're going to look for the children or the kids' tickets. They cost $18.95 to get in, and I want to buy that 12 times. So 2 times 5 is 10. So 2 times 5 is 10, 2 times 9 is 18, plus 1 more is 19, 2 times 8 is 16, plus 1 is 17, 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. We're down to the 2, so we put a placeholder 0, and we multiply 1895 by 1, add all of those values together, and since there was 2 decimal places in my answer, in my problem, I'll have 2 decimal places in my answer. And I see that we have $227.40 that we spent on the children tickets or the kid tickets. Now, if we take the kids and add them with the adults, then we know we have the 30 family members altogether. So kids of the family plus the adults of the family together will make the whole family. So we see that kids, it cost them $227.40 to get all of the kids into the water park. And it cost $467.10 to get all the adults into the water park. So we're going to add that together and line up our decimals when we're adding. So we get 0, 5, 7 plus 7 is 14. So we carry the 1 and bring down the 4. 6 plus 2 is 8, plus that 1 is 9, and 4 plus 2 is 6. So we see that it cost the family $694.50 all together to get everyone into the water park.